Alright, this is my spoiler review for The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. So if you haven't seen that movie yet, go watch it, and then come back and watch this review. Alright, let's kick things off with a positive, a huge positive. Luke Evans as Bard. Man, did this guy just kill it in this movie. He was amazing. Perfect casting. My problem maybe with how it was structured is that he wasn't in the last third of the movie very much. Like once the battle got going, it really felt like they didn't need him and they just kind of cast him to the wayside. He had his own thing, but it wasn't focused on as much as the other characters. But he was so good, I wish we could have focused on his storyline a little more. On a flip side of that, probably my biggest negative in this movie is the character of Alfred. Nothing he did was funny. He was annoying, uncomfortable to watch. Honestly, him and the Master of Laketown should have just been a one scene and then they're done with the whole series. Like the dwarves come to Laketown, they see them, they have a little exchange, and then that's it. We never see the Master of Laketown or this Alfred nonsense again. It was just terrible, and he was given more screen time than many of the dwarves, and like those are our main characters. Another thing that I just didn't buy was the love story. I mean, they kind of hinted at it in the last movie. It was clunky, it didn't work, I couldn't buy it. The actors were good, they tried their best. They did really good jobs for what they were given, but what they were given wasn't great. One thing I did like, even though the execution of it wasn't very good, was that the people who were killed in the novel were the ones who were killed in the film. Because I was afraid that they would either let a couple of the dwarves who are supposed to die live, or maybe kill a bunch of dwarves, because if you watch the animated Hobbit film from back in the day, they killed like half the company, when in fact it's only the three that are supposed to die. So I was happy that they kept that. Same topic about dying and living, that's something I was disappointed on, was Tauriel. She survived. Why? I'm left wondering, well, where is she during the Lord of the Rings films? Because she's alive. Why isn't she helping unite the people? Because you can see that that's a strong passion in her to not turn away from those in need. So when Sauron is attacking everyone, where is she? Where is she? She doesn't seem to be in the Lord of the Rings. So she's changed her character and is now turning away from people. So I felt like they should have killed her in the movie to tie up that loose end, but they didn't. Out of all the things I was looking forward to in this Hobbit film, the Dol Guldur confrontation was one of the highest on that list. But it did kind of disappoint me. Not the fighting, I liked Elrond and Saruman battling, but Galadriel, when she goes into her like, you will not have a Dark Lord but a Queen mode and confronts Sauron, I felt like that was wrong. Because in The Lord of the Rings, when she goes into that mode, it is her kind of showing Frodo, if she got the ring, how it would corrupt her. So that type of animation on her, that type of voice change, was connected in the Lord of the Rings films to corruption and power and darkness. So having her go into that corruption, power, and darkness mode to fight the ultimate source of corruption, power, and darkness seemed wrong. It's like throwing oil on a fire. I honestly feel like Cate Blanchett as Galadriel, she presents so much power just normally in her voice. You don't need to give her any special effects or change her voice to convey that she means business. A couple other characters that I really liked were Thranduil. He was great. Again, I loved seeing him fight. I liked how he was just like, yep, the dwarves aren't going to listen to anything. He didn't believe Gandalf. I thought that was really cool. I like the character they built for him. And I do really like his last scene with Orlando Bloom, where it's, they mention you should go to the north. There's a ranger there you should meet. I thought that gave good reason to why Legolas and Aragorn know each other in the Fellowship of the Ring right away. And I something about that scene. I just like how it was laid out. Maybe a bit in your face and obvious, but for what it was, I really enjoyed it. But the character that is just so great, I mentioned it in my quick spoiler-free review, was Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins. This movie, he was the highlight. I feel like he just gets better and better with each film in the Hobbit series playing Bilbo Baggins. I believe every second he's on screen, and just the little things with like the little thing he like does with his mouth and nose, it just feels like Bilbo. The physical comedy was great. The way he delivers his lines, especially at the end when he's with Thorin and talking about, oh look, it's all right because the eagles are here. It's just so heartbreakingly raw and pure. Martin Freeman is an actor to watch. I'm really excited to see outside of Sherlock what he does, because he's great in Sherlock, he's great in The Hobbit, but I really want to see him get more roles, more lead roles. At the very end of the movie, you have Billy Boyd performing the song The Last Goodbye, and that was a huge highlight. I've listened to this song over and over again. I think they've done an excellent job with all the songs in the Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit films for the closing credit song. And I think Billy Boyd was just the perfect choice and a perfect song. Like The Last Goodbye, you're saying goodbye to this series of movies that is now complete. It just felt very appropriate and a great tie-in to someone who we recognize from the Lord of the Rings films. So a good way to link the series together. The CGI, I think, was better, probably because they've had a couple more years to work out some of the rough spots, but still, it looked like CGI. Possibly the best effects of the Hobbit films, but honestly, if you compare any of these Hobbit films up against the Lord of the Rings blows them out of the water. There are only 2 times in the whole Hobbit trilogy that I feel like the effects rival that in the Lord of the Rings, and that's the dragon Smaug and the Riddles in the Dark with Gollum. I do think Gollum looked better in Riddles in the Dark than he ever did in the Lord of the Rings, and Smaug looked just as real as any of the creatures in the Lord of the Rings did. But outside of those 2 characters in the Hobbit films, it's just very CG, very obvious, and very cartoony at times. They just didn't reach the caliber of filmmaking they had with the Lord of the Rings, which is really disappointing. The last thing I want to talk about is a recommendation as to how to watch this last Hobbit film, because I've seen it 3 times, both in 2D and in 3D. And an interesting thing was I liked the movie more with each viewing. The thing I noticed was the last time I watched it, I watched the second half, kind of everything after the barrel scene of the Desolation of Smaug, and then I went right into the Battle of the Five Armies, and it is a stronger movie if you do that. This should have been 2 movies. From everything I've heard, I think they were going to cut it after the barrel scene, like that would have been the climax of movie 1. That would have been so much stronger. There are links, there are things people say in the second half of Desolation of Smaug that you won't remember unless you've just watched it, and they make the events and way characters behave in this last movie mean so much more. Well, those are my thoughts, kind of the positive, negatives, just really diving into what I thought of this last Hobbit film. I'm sad to see it go, but for now, I want to go back and watch the Lord of the Rings, and I think you should too. Until next time.